Let's start what we missed last week. All right. Last week we covered on the financial statement analysis. Right. We start with the framework first. You need to set up the objective of analysis, and then after you set up the objective of analysis, which is on the top of the panel, right? You set up, like, let's say you want to analyze for security, you want to invest, or you analyze because you want to let them have your own money, like you give them a loan in terms of the bank. Of course, when you focus on different objectives, the thing is you need to focus on different ratio, different measurements. That's why the first thing you got to do when you do financial statement analysis is identify the objective you want to do. After you identify objectives you want to do, then what you're going to do next, you try to collect the data. The data you can get like from the company and from outside the company. That's why in terms of the company, you got lots of sources as well. You have financial statements, you have annual report, you have management discussion and analysis. Gather all those things. In terms of outside resources, you still have other websites or from industry data. For example, you can go on the Bank of Thailand website to check out the interest rate whatsoever, or you check out the inflation rate, and try to put everything together. How does it affect to your analysis? And then you get all those things together. Now it's time to do analysis thing. When we talk about analysis, we have analysis two. We start with the first one, business strategies analysis. Right? In terms of business strategy, I remember I showed you one slide that's very important. You got to understand business, try to understand the competitiveness of the business. Right? You need to understand how effective of the company when they run on the competition. Right? And what behind them to support them to keep going on in the business, and what can protect them from running the business. I give you an example of the airline business, if you remember, right? For airline business, some people say it's very hard to get it, but of course some billionaires can do it now. Bangkok Airways, for example. So you need to distinguish yourself what you want to do. That's why you need to understand the landscape of environment. That's why we call it top-down approach. You start with the macroeconomics analysis, and followed by industrials, and go down to business strategy. Of course, business strategy, you can have like, if you want to be cost leadership, or if you want to be product differentiations of your business, or you want to be niche market, which is mixed between two things. Like you want to be the cost leadership in the business, you need to make sure you got very low cost, of course. Try to save your money. You can see lots of examples, like, okay, after people do the research and create a new product, some people just copy the product instead. You don't need to spend much on the research. In America, for example, when I was there, back long time ago, when McDonald's want to locate their restaurant or their shop instead over there, the thing is, what they did is like they follow Burger King. The Burger King's going to do the research first, like this is the area that they need to locate to make the sales. After the Burger King set up, a couple months later, McDonald's get it there. What happened in this case? They minimize research costs, marketing costs, right? Follow the other competitors. That could be another example, like this is how they want to be. Okay, so you need to understand the business strategies. This is what you're going to learn a lot too from business strategies analysis, like you're going to learn SWOT analysis, you're going to learn tools analysis. I think just like flop the other way around. I'm not going to touch that because I'm not strategist. I'm in the accounting thing. That's why I moved to the second box. The second box is when we talk about accounting analysis. I talk a lot on this. If you understand the business, you can imagine what's on the statement of financial position. What could be the main asset? What could be the main liabilities? and what could be the main revenue and the expense. After you imagine what's going on in there, then you try to identify the key accounting items and try to find what choice they can make. For example, for inventory, if you think this industry or this business focus more on inventory, like 7-Elevens or CPO, if you think, well, what I would say they should have leasehold right, which is the long-term asset, and for short-term asset inventory. What they're gonna play is like, well, what inventory choice they're gonna go for? First in, first out, average, or specific. You learned with Dr. Pinsurik before. That's accounting choice that they can play with to make sure they got a higher income. All right? They're not gonna play with the small thing. They play with the big thing and got a big effect. It's much better, isn't it? In terms of leasehold right, it's very hard to play with the number. The reason is why they stick with the contract. But what they can play is going to be about the building, machine, equipment. Because management got their own judgment. I want to use machine for 20 years. Who knows? It's going to last that long, or it can destroy very easy. So very subjective. That's why you got to make sure you focus on the main thing. In terms of liability, I talked about that already as well. Between short term and long term, which one you're gonna go for in terms of the management? Interest bearing debt or non-interest bearing debt? You know about that term. Interest bearing is like you borrow money, you got interest to pay back, isn't it? That's what interest bearing debt. And of course, short term and long term. Long term got higher interest because they put risk premium in there. Now it's time to think about if the company want to get the money, what they want to go for, short or long. Depends on liquidities of the company. All right? So when you focus on all those things, you need to make sure you understand the business. We talk a little bit more on equity part. In terms of equity part, you know it's about common stock, right? But in fact, we do have another kind of stock, right? Preferred. Or preferred with some privilege. Like accumulated preference share, for example. That preference share can get dividend accumulated. So it has to be something to think about, well, is that equity or is that liabilities? Because you got obligation to pay dividend every year. But you just don't declare that you have a dividend. That's the thing. And have you ever heard about perpetual bonds? In Thai stock market now we do have perpetual bond. What that's supposed to mean? They can renew bond all the time. Some company issue perpetual bond like PTT, issue perpetual bond. Can you guess what they treat as a liability or as an equity? Perpetual bond. Either one of them, liability or equity. Can you guess? Do you think it's liability? It's perpetual bond. They say, well, you can renew the bond. We don't have to pay the principal. Could it be liabilities? But you still got obligation to pay interest, isn't it? That's an argument as well when it comes to federal accounting federations. I work in there. So when the issue get in there, of course, all Ajahn get together and what's going on. Why the company issue all this thing? They want to manipulate debt to equity ratios. If you treat in the wrong place, what's going on when you calculate debt to equity ratios? Right? You just move from numerator to denominators. It's very easy. Now it's time to think about, we need to check characteristic of the financial instrument. That's why I would recommend you to learn finance class a lot. Accounting and finance cannot separate now. Finance people create some stuff. Accounting got to follow what they do. And try to make sure we treat them with the right place. That's all the financing activities. So that's why accounting analysis is important when you need to understand what's going on. What are their purpose? And after you make sure you got the right number, Then do the third box, which is the ratio you like. Just like I give you exercise last Thursday. The ratios measure performance. To simplify it, you can think about, well, the ratio is just numerator divided by denominator. I would say it's the relation between input and output, or X and Y. It just depends on what you treat. You can treat asset as an input. Cash flow can be the output. So you can do the ratio by yourself, cash flow over the asset. That's the output over the input. Or if you think my input is now equity, but the output now, I want to make sure like we got EBITDA just right, you can come up with your own ratio, EBITDA over the equity. Make sure you know how to analyze what you come up. That's why I'm not going to train you like, oh, this ratio talk about this ratio talk about that. You can search about yourself. You are MBA student now, master student, make sure you got survival skill. I cannot teach you forever. I can train you the concept. Same thing when I studied in Michigan. My professor told me as well, professor is just facilitator, not lecturer. To accommodate you, to make sure you get out of the school, you got MBA takeaway. You know what I mean? You got to take away something. Not only like this ratio equal to this is undergraduate student. Now you learn to think over the case. Okay? So for the ratios analysis, you start with the DuPont analysis. Start with ROE and break it down. I'm not going to chat that no more. Right? When you break it down, you have ROA, you have profit margin, you have leverage whatsoever. It's the same stuff, but make sure you got the right number on your formula. Otherwise, you got it wrong. For example, if you go to NOPAIR financial statements, you expect to see the plane as an asset, right? So the ROA should put like net income over the plane, actually. But if you go to the financial statement, you will be surprised on the financial statement of NOPAIR, no plane. They do operating lease. When they do operating lease, what that's supposed to mean, the rent they pay we charge as an expense, not capitalized as an asset. On the other hand, go to Thai Airways, National Airline. We got to play because they do financial lease. When you analyze ROA between these two companies, you're going to see the difference. Okay? That's why garbage in, garbage out. You need to be smart enough to catch them. What they do, what they try to do, why they get away with the asset outside like that. Well, their structure, the contract like this. Auditors say, well, that's fine, because accounting standards say so. We got the right to play, just like that. For the ratios, move to the next one, the fourth one. Prospective. This means what? Prospect, look forward. You need to set up assumption. Basically, when you try to forecast financial statement, you start with the growth of sales and followed by expense, blah, blah, blah. But you got to make sure the numbers correlated. If you expect sales to be growth, I'm going to ask you, are you sure asset not going to grow up? Are you sure the company use the same capability to generate the sales amount? Make sure you got the make sense of the ratios, sensibilities analysis coming down the line. So that's why 4 box just a big overview of what's going on for financial statement analysis. All right. So when we talk about this framework, now let's talk about, well, after you analyze what's going on, then we're going to talk about the financial reporting qualities. Are you sure the financial report that you just look at have a good quality? Why I say financial report? Financial report, not only we talk about financial statement. If I'm asking you, when we're looking at financial statement, how many statements you're going to see? Financial statement. 4, which is what? Positions. What next? Income statement, which is now statement of comprehensive income, right? And it shows you already what is OCI, other comprehensive income. Got it? Right? What are in OCI? For example, I got the land and then I revalue that. The gain from the revaluation we put in OCI rather than put in the profit and loss. Not only the land, from the gain from the land. If the company got investment in foreign country, we need to convert them to do consolidation. Gain or loss from converting them, we put in OCI. You're gonna learn that this Thursday. What's going on when we have foreign currencies like that. Well, second done. What next? Number 3. Statement of change in shareholder equity. Why we need that? To report is not enough. To statement is not enough. Why accounting people crazy to do so? What you get from that? Statement financial position, you get well, for sure. The company rich or poor, you can tell from the financial position statement. And the source of financial positions, from liability or equity, that's what you did. But from income statement, you gain, well, the company make profit or not, success or fail. That serves 2 purposes already for these 2 statements. What about statement number 3? Statement of change shareholder equity, what they try to tell you. Any ideas? You get what, sorry?
Get the benefit of share the loss. Get the benefit or share the loss.
And
The
why?
responsible parties.
And why it's so important to know, like, why do we get the benefit or we share loss? If you are investor in the listed company, you take a look. This statement. Are you sure you looked at? My sister never looked at that. She played on the stock market. She looking at PE ratio. She looking at price to book ratio and looking at the trend. That's what she did. She never have a glance on statement of change in shareholder equity. So it means what? It means nothing. But why we prepare for that? Why accounting people prepare for people? What's the fact? Why shareholder care about the change? Did you care? You are shareholders. You're looking at statement of change in shareholder equity. If you say like, well, at the beginning, shareholder equity is $100. At the end of the period, it's go down to $80. You may want to take a look what caused me drop. Right? Is this from we got deficit or negative return? Or is this from like, oh, you pay dividend that much? Right? On the other hand, what if at the beginning you got 100? At the year end, you got 150. You may say, hey, that's good. Right? Well, that could be like, well, the company issued the new stock to the stock market. Or the company get higher return. Or the company got deficit, but they revalued the land. Because the revaluation surplus report as equity in the statement of financial position. That's why we have to care about what caused equity change. The book value go up for sure if shareholder equity blow up. But when you calculate price to book ratio, you have to think about, well, if that makes sense, why my book value go up? What caused that? That's why you need to check out the components of the statement of shareholder equity. What about the fourth statement? It's cash flow. Why it's so important to look at the cash flow? Let's see the liquidity? No. Actually, liquidity you can see from the statement of financial position. You put current asset over current liability, show liquidity too, right? That's how you call current ratio. Or you calculate working capital, CA minus CL, you got working capital. That's answer your liquidity. But why you need to take a look at statement of cash flow? It's got to be some good reason. Why?
To see how much money that we have in hand.
To see how much money that we have in hand. No, because if you want to answer this question, I would say looking at statement of financial position, looking at cash balance, this is the cash you got. See why? Cash profit, that's almost there. The reason why we got statement of financial position, statement of cash flow is what? You will take a look at the reconciliation between net income and CFO. If you look at the component of statement of cash flow, you got CFO, cash flow from operation, you got CFI, cash flow from investing, and you got CFF, cash flow from financing. And reconcile all those things. Finally, you get reconcile from cash at the beginning to cash at the end. If you want to find out how much cash do I have, go on to statement of financial position. That's what there. You don't need cash flow at all. But if you need cash flow, you want to see the flow of cash. Inflow and outflow. Right? You got to see flow of cash, which is inflow and outflow. From investing and financing, very straightforward. This statement gonna say, well, this period I invest in building. This period I buy intangible asset. This period, this is what I do. I sell investment and get money back. Or this period, I issue bond. This period, I renew bond. I pay back the bond and issue the new one. All those things say on statement of cash flow. You need to see the flow. That's why we call statement of cash flow. Cash coming in, cash going out. Because of what? Some company cash go out much because they pay dividend. Some company cash get in a lot because they sell their own property. What that's supposed to mean if they make a lot of sale of property. You got more cash, you would love to. But source of cash is coming by selling their own asset. What that's supposed to mean? If the company starts selling their own asset. No. Actually, when you think about, I want to sell my asset, this means what? Maybe I want to liquidate my business. This machine, I don't want to use it no more. Rather sales. Right? I need cash to keep my liquidity. To make sure I got solvency. Right? I need sell, get the money in and pay back liabilities. So when you analyze the cash flow, lots of things going on. Make sure you understand the rationale behind of the management. Why they're doing so. Okay? So now fourth statement tell you lots of things. What about the other one? Financial statement? The notes. Why the notes so important? Why we need to look at the notes? Detail of what? Right, our financial statement and why we need to see the detail. What they're going to tell us about. The basis of accounting. Are you sure people care about that? What else they give more? Accounting choice. Well, that could be one reason. What else they give us more? In the notes. What's that? Keep talking. I talk all day today, so it's time for you to talk now. Audit comment is to see on auditor report. detail of the balance sheet, what you need to look at? The fixed asset, yes, why? Depreciation, and what they try to tell you about accumulated depreciation. The method you can see on accounting policies, you don't need to see at the accumulated depreciation. What is all about accumulated depreciation? When you see, oh, the company got original cost 100, accumulated depreciation 80, so what? Book value is 20. This is mean anything? What that's supposed to mean? Cost 100, accumulated 80, book value 20. Okay, you drill down on the financial statement, they say property, plant, equipment worth 20. Footnote number 10. Go to footnote number 10. Original cost 100. Accumulated depreciation 80. Book value 20. That's it. And what they're trying to say to you, can you get some implications of this? Liquidity? What that's supposed to mean by liquidity? Why? I got any accumulated depreciation. What happened to my liquidity? You have to write off the fixed asset in the futures. Are you sure you will need to write off? Or they just expire? Well, I would say if you see some fixed asset got higher accumulated depreciation, what that's supposed to mean? This company use asset for a long time. It's time to do some capital maintenance. You're gonna have more capital expenditure in the futures, or you have a big repair in the future. Are you sure you got enough cash to support that? One way you can think of, right? You can think like, well, they use asset for a long time. It's time to create a new asset. And what if the company say, well, I have no policy to repair the asset? What's going to be the problem next? I'm going to use it, no matter what. Safety. What else? Qualities of the products they make, and of course affect to your sales. Implications more and more. That's why the company, even they get lost, but they still have to do capital maintenance, have to do a lot. If you're looking at the financial statement of GMM, you will see consolidated, they have a big loss, but they still got cash outflow on investing activity. They still got to support what's going on, right? And the other thing that you can think of the measurement when you're looking at the notes, for example, let's suppose I got litigation. I got sued. The company got sued from the other stakeholders worth about $400 million. Can be recorded on the financial statement. We got like a notice from the court. Like, well, some stakeholders sued this company worth for about $400 million. But the litigation here is still in process. No final decision yet. It's still at the first court. Not on the justice yet. Can we record this? Why? We got a notice already. The probability, what's going on with my probabilities? It's not finalized yet, but what if we have a high likelihood that we're gonna lose in this case? The probability is quite high because we can prove that you are wrong. For example, my truck ran from Bangkok to Chiang Mai and then got an accident, it's collapsed. My product, which is chemical, leak to the public. It can prove for sure that your company got responsible for this damage. Can we record this? Interesting question. Can we record? Probability is quite high. We need to record. But now the problem is how much? That's why recognition rules of the financial statement, two rules: probabilities and the reliabilities of the amount that you have to record. When you pass probability rules, now it's time to think about the amount. Reliably measures, right? That's the rule. In terms of asset and in terms of liabilities. In terms of asset, if you got high probabilities to get future benefit, and the amount can be reliably measured. In terms of liabilities, high likelihood to lose some future benefit, and with reliable measures. So, if you can't record, what should we do? Disclose in the notes. In what item? Not liabilities, because it's not liability yet. If it's liability, it should be recorded. Contingent liabilities, right? So of course, if you invest in this firm, you got to be prepared that you're going to lose. That's why the note says something else, not only the details of the numbers. Litigation. Have you heard about commitment? I just intend to buy the machine from Germany, 6 million euros. I sign up the agreement like in the next 6 months. The company in Germany need to send me the machine for 6 million euro. Can we record this? I signed up the agreement already. Can we? Some people say no. Why? I would say yes, because I signed up the contract that I intend to buy, but the machine should be here in the next 6 months. Should we record this? The amount says so, 6 million. All right, the amount is right there, can be reliable measures. Probability, yes, you're gonna buy. But how could we record? It's a commitment. Just committed, like you're going to buy. So it means you got to disclose under the commitment and liabilities, contingent liabilities. Note says a lot. Say something that number didn't say. And if you want to be a smart investor or smart financial statement user, read more notes. It's going to help you. Number is a number. Garbage in, garbage out. Put the ratio, whatever you like, fine. Add more notes to get more flavor. All right? So in terms of the financial statement, you got 4 statements and 1 note. And all of this got to be audited by independent auditors, which is CPA, like me. I got a CPA. I need to audit the financial statements to certify this is right, to take a look. The package of the financial statement with with the auditor report, that's what we call financial report. So financial report include more than just statement. They include statement, auditor report, and other information related to financial decision. That's why when we talk about financial reporting qualities, now we're on here now. Right here. I told you I cannot cover all the slide, but you can learn from what I talk. When we talk about financial reporting qualities, all right, we want to make sure the objective of financial statement are achieved. You can project the cash flow from the financial statement for sure, right? Make sure the qualities related to the accuracy of the financial report. You got to make sure you can rely on it, all right? So if you want to make sure everything is fine, it's help us to forecast the cash flow. To identify what could create the low qualities of financial report. You read on the line and try to tell me, does that make sense? For the 4 bullets here. If the financial report got either 4 of them, do you think you can trust them? First, management choose accounting standard to make sure they get the number they like. To distort or make sure like the financial statement report what they want to be. Fake sales. Or make a sales agreement and buy back. Like that. In terms of expense, rather than expense them, we capitalize this expenditure as an asset. That could be. It's happened for AOL before. They got subscriptions, cost, and actually think about this. If you study instead, back in my old days, foreigners, actually not foreigners, students got CD to install the program from AOL, American Online, all right, to get 20 hours to surf on the internet back then. Of course, the CD here got a cost, isn't it? American Online paid to create the CD and pay some cost to serve the internet hours. In the light of this situation, should we treat the cost of CD and production like this as an expense, or should we treat them as an asset? What do you think? When you distribute the CD all over US, all over the state, let's say it costs like $300 million. Should we treat them as an expense, or should we treat them as an asset? It's like you pay for marketing, you pay for advertisement. That's why I give you guys single CD. Try to use my service. Try to use my service. If you like it, subscribe it later. Got it? That's the purpose of distributed CD. Now it's time to think about if this kind of expenditures happen. Should we treat them as an asset, or should we treat them as an expense? What do you think? Expense, why? Mm-hmm. The managing director say, we pay for this because we want to get the future benefit. We expect like all the students supposed to come back to us. So they think we should treat them as an asset. The definition of the asset says so. It's a resource that the company control. Right? The company control and expect to get future benefit. And what they say is, the future benefit is all students who got the CD, most of them should come back and use our service. Do you think this makes sense to say so?
No,
Why?
because if we allow this, like this theory, then we should allow all sales marketing expenses to be the future profit. Yeah, so like it's totally same as the expenses for marketing as well, like
Mhm.
current doing activities.
Almost there. They always group like this. When auditors like, oh, if we do like this, it means all marketing expense gonna come and capitalize them. But in fact, can you prove the probabilities? You got to defend to me the probability that 6 students gonna come back. Can you prove it? Just like you got 45 students in here, I give you all the CD, one of you. Can you tell me like, oh, 30 students gonna come back, another 15 not gonna come back. It's about proving of probabilities. Even the amount can be reliable measures, but about to prove the probabilities. Alright? Same thing for other marketing expense. The reason why we cannot capitalize marketing expense is what? You cannot prove like the customer's gonna buy our product. Isn't it? You cannot prove. For example, some company hire Nadet and Yaya to do the advert. Can you prove like, oh, we follow Nadet and Yaya and we're gonna use the product that they use? No, nobody guarantee. If we got uncertainty like this, what should we do? Expense. Yes.
How can we prove that about the probability? Can the research, if I hire someone to do a research, is enough to prove the probability?
No, it's not enough. Good questions. How can we prove the probabilities? That's tough question. Even though you are pharmaceutical company, you do a lot of research. For example, I got a big project to create HIV pills. Right? Can you prove that they're gonna get future benefit from this project? They keep researching. If it's no uncertainty, we got to expense them. That's why when we talk about R&D, which is research and development. For R, research, can you guarantee it's gonna success? Yes or no? No. That's why accounting people say, don't even dare to capitalize. Expense, right? How dare you capitalize? Because you can prove like you're gonna success. But what about development? Can we capitalize? Are you sure it's gonna be yes? We have criteria. We got 8 criteria. You got to make sure you pass through all the criteria first. The company intend to do so, the company got capability to do so, the company have enough resource to do so whatsoever. You got 8 criteria to reach it first before you capitalize development costs. Alright? All of this, the first bullet. Accounting standard give you more choice or more option to do so. But are you sure you can trust the financial statements? Looking at the second bullet, what happened? Construct something to get what they want. For example, let's say the old accounting principles say, if you hold a company greater than 50% of the common stock, that's going to be your subsidiary, and I have to do consolidation. So, I know this is a bright line rules to say so. I hold 49%, enough. I want to do consolidation. I hold only 49%, and ask my driver to hold another 2% with me to avoid consolidation. So it means what? Your subsidiary out of the loop. And you construct, let subsidiary borrow money from the public and do the trading between your subsidiary and your company, create cash flow from operation, which is fake one. So what that's supposed to mean? Management use this channel to manipulate the number. They create SPE, special purpose entity, to do so for you. This happened for Enron. Alright? So what is that? Like number 2 and number 4 look like that. But now accounting standard gain more better. We got a better position like, well, don't take a look just only percentage. We need to think about the substance. Even though, get back to my situation, even though you owe 49%, but you have nominees for another 2%. So it means altogether you got a big board. You can control. You cannot get away with that. Now we go principle based. That's for example. Another thing that back a couple years ago, we're talking about operating list and finance list. When we talk about finance list, you got to set up the percentage. Like you got to useful life got to be at least 80% the contract whatsoever. If you want to avoid asset and liability in your statement of financial position, you create a contract, avoid that condition, and finally you got operating list. When you got operating list, you don't need to book the asset, you don't need to book liabilities. You have only the expense. Very easy to get away. But now accounting standard changed the model. Don't go with the bright line rule like this. We go for the principle and use more judgment. But of course, still got some weakness. Based on the judgment, it's up to who judge. Management. But management got to discuss with the auditor. Right? We got a lot of argument because the accounting standard didn't say it very straightforward. That's going to be important thing for you to look at. Number 3, Number 3, what that's supposed to mean. What you think? Using appropriate estimate. What is this? Can you give us example? What estimate? Useful life. Yes. Anything else? No, fine. Yes, that's good. What else? Provisions of doubtful debt, right? The agings of the AR. It's like, well, I think my account receivable here gonna be lose only 3% of the amount. Management say like that. But auditors say no, I don't think so. Based from my experience, I got one company. I tell you like this. This company been with, the company make a sales to another company. Let's say I audit company A now. Company A make a sales to company B. So it means what? Company B is A account receivable, right? But the company B never pay back to company A for about 2 years already. Do you think we should set up 100% of provision? 2 years, never pay back. If you are an auditor, what are you gonna do? This is my job. What do you think? Should set up 100%, right? Because no movement. All of a sudden, I walk to see my clients. Back then, I was a senior auditor. I asked them like, why you keep this like this record? Never get money back, and you didn't set up any provision. Can you guess what is the answer? From the accounting manager of that time. What's that? No, it's not in the company. They say the management of our company know the other management of the other company. They know each other. And if you are in my position, what you gonna do? It's interesting. That's my real world, my real life. That's why I quit to be an auditor and turned to be a teacher. That's a very horrible job. What they say is, oh, they know each other, they're gonna pay for sure. I say in my mind, if they wanna pay for sure, why they don't pay? Right? If they guarantee they're gonna pay, why they don't pay? They say, they're supposed to pay, but well, if they're supposed to pay, why they don't pay? Keep talking like that. I insist we need to set a provision 100% because it's my first job that day. She say, no, she's not gonna set up. Keep fighting like this. And you guess what will be the results? I ask 100%, they ask 0%. What do you think? 100 plus 0 divided by 2. That makes sense. It's not going to be like negotiation like this. I'm going to say, never mind. I'm going to ask my partner because I'm not a partner, I'm just senior. I'm going to ask my partner to negotiate with you. And she says, so I'm going to ask my managing director. Fine. Yeah, separate. I'm just like, okay, fine. You're just talking. And then I let my partner talk to managing director. The final provision turned to be about 75%. And you know what did happen next year? No, they paid. They paid. And after they paid, what happened next? Make a sales again. You know what I mean? They make the account move. And it is if they circulate, auditor not gonna catch it. You know what I mean? If they keep outstanding, no movement, auditor gonna spot for sure. By doing like this, they keep their account movement, buy and sell, like renew all the time. Alright? This example tell you a lot about refinance. Think about liabilities. If the company keep refinance, got to be some signal. Right? Even though they from short term to long term or long term to short term. When they refinance from long to short, what that's supposed to mean? The company used to have a long term liabilities, but now turned to be short term. What happened? What's that, sorry? Higher payment, no. Why the loan giver or the banker change the term structures from long to short? Low credit, lower the interest rate. Well, but why they need to sacrifice interest rate in terms of the bank? No. Actually, just like what you say, the company got some trouble. That's why they are not sure, like the company can pay back for the long period. That's why they restructures. They sacrifice higher interest rate to get the lower one, but make sure get the money sooner. Isn't it? After you refinance from long to short, it means what? You're going to get principal back sooner. But why they sacrifice higher interest? Isn't it? That's tricky thing. When you're looking at the company change the shape of the capital structures, every year keep doing like that. All right. So when you're looking at low financial reporting qualities, costs like this, get in mind. And hey, what happened? We call fraud triangle. The triangle is like what? First, why management got to do the fraud? Even though by intentionally or unintentionally. Why? First, think about capital pressure, especially for the company listed in the stock market. They got expectation from market participants. For example, analysts forecast next year this company got to have earnings per share for at least $10 per share. Okay? Now quarter 3, earnings per share is only $5 per share. What you gonna do for the last quarter to boost up the earning? Depreciation, can you change? Change accounting policies. You can play with lots of things. Change the estimate. That's why when they got capital pressures, like capital market pressure like this, got intentions. That's why regulators coming in keep checking all the time, every quarter, on what's going on. When analysts issue the analyst report, they set up some pressure to the company, right? Next is what? The contract. Looking at the contract, what that's supposed to mean by contract. If the management compensations contract say, well, your bonus stick with EBITDA. Your bonus stick with the cash flow of the company. What you gonna do then? Try to manage as much as you like. Example like this is from my cousins. He was hired as CEO of one company. I'm not gonna tell you what company it is, but they are in cleaning business. That's it. The contract, his contract say like this. His bonus stick with operating performance, which is ROE. You need to make sure the company ROE is about 15%, for example, across 3 years. Otherwise, you're not going to get bonus and we're not going to renew your contract. That's what his contract said. And then he give me a phone, not like give me mobile phone, he give me like this. He give me a phone and say, what should I do? This is the last quarter now for the first year. If you were in my position, what you gonna say? What should we do? I'm gonna say let it go. Let it be. Just kidding. I'm not gonna say straightforward. I'm just saying, well, if you think what create ROE to be that high, you say it's numerator and denominator, right? Numerator, which is net income. Denominator, which is equity. Of course, you need to create high net income and low equity. Just like I'm asking you last week. What should we do? I just give him a guide like this. And of course, he's smart enough to be CEO. Right? Otherwise, no deserve for the contract. And he just say, okay, that's it. And he can make it. And you know what was happened? Guess. Get the bonus, of course, sure. But what he did in the financial statement. What do you think? Cleaning business. Think about this asset structures, liabilities. If you run the cleaning business, you know the cleaning business, right? Clean the building, main whatsoever. What are the main assets of the cleaning business? It's fine. What are the main assets of the cleaning business? It's a service. Staff. What else? Do you think they have equipment? They rent. They're not going to buy their own equipment. They have their own equipment, but they rent it. Right? What else can be the main asset? Some people say, oh, they can pay with depreciation. Sorry, it's service business. They have staff. Anything else can do. It's fun. Service, they got staff. Staff is a salary. Nothing much. What else can they play with the number? What's that? Buy back the stock? No. Not just yet. But they will. Tell me they pay dividend. When they pay dividend, when equity go down, shareholders satisfy. They pay interim dividend. interim dividends. It's not annual dividend. Interim dividend is happen like during the year. If you think it's got a good performance, you are allowed to pay interim dividends. Smart, isn't it? One shoot got two birds. First, ROE go up. Second, shareholder satisfied. Happy with that. It's a win-win situation. And he got the bonus. The thing is, the contract say ROE. If the contract say net income, that's going to be his problem. Isn't it? Because it's going to be hard for him. But the contract to say ROE, that's contract. They can play with it. So that's why you got to learn what motivates them. Alright? Well, another contract that you may take a look, if you go for the bank or financial institution and they say, well, I'm going to give you a loan, right? Debt covenants 2/1. Which is what? Debt to equity should be less than 2/1. By contract like this, motivate them as well to play with DE ratio. That could be a reasons for making poor qualities of information when you're looking at. Alright? That's why when you're looking at financial statement, make sure you get to their motivation. The second is opportunity to create the fraud. That could be like, well, if you get into the company which has poor internal control, so easy to taking care of business transaction, isn't it? You don't need to worry about, well, how could we do this transaction, do that transaction, because we have poor internal control. You can, managing director can do everything without co-authorization. Easy for him to get away. Isn't it? Alright? So that's what you get to understand all those things we have. Well, not only for listed company, now go for SME. When you're looking at financial statement for SME, what do you expect to see? High net income or low net income?
Low net income.
Why we got to find low net income?
To avoid tax.
To avoid tax? Think again. Tax account, tax income different from accounting income. Right? Because we got a tax rule to follow. So it doesn't mean like if accounting income report 100, the taxable income will be 100. Let's suppose my revenue is based on dividend in BOI business. The dividend income from BOI business are tax exempt. Tax rule. Accounting income still high, but I still got low income tax expense. Right? But tentatively, you will see low accounting income for sure when you're looking at SME financial statements. Not only lower tax and lower net income on the statement of financial position, what you're going to see? Asset high or low? Internal asset for SME, higher than realistic or lower than the real one?
Higher than realistic.
You're not going to see higher. You normally see lower. They understate asset. Lots of SME use their own business owner asset, not belong to their asset, not belong to the company. They use their own car to run the business. The car is under their owner name, not under the company name. Inventory. Think about inventory. My friend, for example, in the province outside Bangkok, he has about 5 business, but only 4 business is in the financial statement. Another one in the other book. So off the record. VAT, non-VAT. That's tough for SME. What is their motivation? Why they have to report lower income tax and lower the asset? What are going to be their motivation? Lower asset, lower net income. Go to the bank. Do you think they're going to give you a loan? No. But why they have to do so? What's the point?
They try to avoid the investigation from the government.
Well, I'm a government. I know they are going to do like this.
You guys do not check one by one.
No,
SMEs.
it's just randomized. It's just random. But we know that, well, that could be the trend of the SME, like this. We do company visit. My student work with revenue department. This is what he told me. When he want to evaluate it or get more tax income, he just visit the company and just monitor them, at least for a day. Know the traffic. You mean the traffic, like people come in and out, the turnover things, and try to like estimate the sales and just mapping estimation sales to the real sales. If it's different, the owner of the business should show them what's going on. But of course, if you think about the motivations of lower net income and lower asset, one reason is the tax. They want to take everything out of the loop. All right, so that's why when you're looking at their motivation, you know what tend to be for the bias on the financial statements. All right, that's what I'm going to give you the clue what's going on right now. Well, let's move to the next one. All right. In terms of financial reporting qualities, we're going to say the other hand as earning qualities. If we got higher qualities of earnings, it could be they have a higher qualities of financial report. When we say earning qualities, what that's supposed to mean? Earning should be persistent. So earning today should persist in the futures. It's happened today, it should happen in the futures. That's called earning persistent. And also sustainability should last longer. All right, that's why if you notice, well, this year the earning is quite weird. It's very high up. Because, we got sale of selling land. This earning not going to be persist. It's not going to be sustained. You need to adjust, take it out, make it to normal level. That's why when you talk about aggressive earnings or conservative earnings, both of them not good. Too aggressive or too conservative. What that's supposed to mean? Aggressive is like you need high earnings. This means what? You're going to generate higher revenue, more than it should be. Higher than the expectation, right? Higher revenue, create higher net income. Very aggressive. On the other hand, very conservative. When things happen, I always cut at an expense all the time. Too much conservative. It should be on prudence way, in the middle. That's why accounting standard now change the word, not conservatism. We call prudence. Prudence is supposed to be unbiased, but too aggressive or too conservative is not a good thing for you to spot on the financial statement. All right. That's why this sentence is quite important. Too high or too low. It's not good. Which is tough? What is too high? What is too low? I would say the earning that reflect the real performance, that could be about right. All right, and of course, when we talk about accrual basis and cash basis, accrual can be reversed over time, like depreciation. Depreciation based on accrual basis. You depreciate 5 years, and then you depreciate for 10 years. Both company can play with the number, but over 10-year time, the accrual will be reversed back to normal. They can play, but they can play not going to be that long. All right, that's what we call mean reversions in earning. Like this is from the research. They just plot very simple. They just group the company in US in 10 portfolio, and they grouped it by ROA, return on net operating asset. You will see the side. We got 10 portfolio. Look at the above one. The above one, which is what? That in year 0, that line got a higher ROA. Look at the bottom one. In year 0, the company in that group got a very low ROA. But look at 5-year terms. The ROA converge together. In different 10 portfolio. So what that's supposed to mean? The company with higher ROA, they play with the number in that period. Over the year, the accrue being reversed. And finally, the ROA convert to the mean on average. That's for examples of the ROA conversions. All right. So when we talk about earning qualities, so it's mean what? You better break down the item into 2 dimensions. Look at the red line first. Operating versus non-operating items. Look at the components of the earnings. The components of the earnings, we got revenue and we got the expense. You need to identify the revenue into 2 parts. The revenue which is come from operating and the revenue which is come from non-operating. Also for the expense, break it down into 2 parts. Which one is operating, which one is non-operating. Why? The proportions going to tell you something. For example, if your revenue, let's say total revenue 100, one company 80 is from operating, another 20 from non-operating. This is for company A. Move to company B, same thing, revenue 100, but flip the other way around. 80 is from non-operating, 20 from operating. What you gonna go for? A or B? You go for A. Even in total, they got the same. Same thing for the expense. Break it down into non-operating and operating. Look another dimension, which is the second line. Recurring or non-recurring. Recurring is in what? Keep repeating. They keep repeating every year. Non-recurring just happened for this year, and I don't think it's going to happen next year. To make sure you break into those 4 items, you will make a clear picture what's going on in my company that the company will look at. All right, to identify what cost them that high or what's cost them that low net income. For example, in year, let's say year 2000. About almost 8 years ago when we got a huge flood in Bangkok. Most companies report loss from the flood. Loss from the flood here report in selling and administrative expense. No extraordinary items, not like US GAAP. The question is this recurring or non-recurring item? Non-recurring. Are you sure? It's coming again this year. I'm so afraid of. Right? We suppose to think it's non-recurring. This is operating or non-operating. Non-operating. So it means what? In that year, take away that part. find out what is operating part and recurring profit when you analyze. And you will get the broad pictures of the firm. To identify the quality of financial report, one way to do rate it. All right? And of course, if the company got more recurring items, that's going to be the good sign for you, isn't it? Okay. So to identify the low quality financial reporting, first, look at underline key risks or success factors. And when you analyze the qualities of the financial report, after you identify key risks or success factors, just like I'm asking you, if you don't think about success factor of the airline business, what do you think? What could be the success factor of the airline business? Any ideas? What could be? Success factor is factor that make company successful. Successful in what? Got high revenue, high net income, more impact to the people. So in the airline business, what will be the success factors?
Loyal
Cost.
customers.
What's that?
To grow up loyal customers.
Loyal customers. Cost. What that's supposed to mean by cost? Operating costs. If you spend more on operating costs, you get success. If you got more loyalty program, you think you will success. Think about what impact them in terms of price and quantity. Right? Success means you create high revenue. And what are the components of the revenue? Price multiplied by quantity. What create high price? What create high passengers? Can you control the price?
Branding.
What's that?
Branding.
What's that, sorry?
Branding.
Branding, yes. Can you control by the price? If you say you operate in the red ocean industry, price war, isn't it? Now people care. I want to fly Thai Airways because it's a national airway. No, you can go for Thai Lion Air. You can go for other things. We get there as well. Bangkok, Chiang Mai. Can we control for the price?
No.
It's a price war now. Now turn to Q. What will be the success factors of the Q? Or risk factors. Not as confront the risk now. When we got a case, a pilot case, remember last couple of years ago, people were afraid of no air going to be delayed. Affect the Q, not the P. Right? Loyalty program. All airlines create all loyalty program, but who got a big reward? I don't know. But I'm asking you. But I try to think who got a big reward to the citizens or to the people. So when we think about success factor, what affect P or what affect Q for the revenue? Now turn to what we just said, cost. Cost, less cost create more net income, represent their success. The problem is, can we keep operating costs low? No meal. What else can we keep operating costs low? What?
How you manage the operating operation.
How could we manage them to be low? Break down the components of the expense. First, cost of sales of the airline. What is the cost of sales of the airline business?
Using kiosk.
Kiosk, anything else? Fuel, gasoline. Anything else? What's that? Salary of who? Cost of sales, flight attendants. Is there any commissions? No, right? Just a fly. When we talk about cost of sales, think about components in there. What create the plane to fly? Think about depreciation of the plane. Think about the rents of the plane. If we don't do finance lease, we do operating lease. Alright? Admin is just an admin. So let's do line by line. Cost of sale, can we keep it low? Now selling admin, can we keep it low? Right? Finally, you got bottom line, show your success. But if you got high bottom line, is it sustainable? Maybe not. Right? That's why you need to keep like optimum level, which is hard. I know it's an art of management. If you focus a lot on the bottom line, you will get suffering for sure. Alright? Well, after you identify key risks and key success, Nok Air learned a lot from risk factors about the pilot. Right? That's the risk part. People don't trust back then, but now they try to gain their reputation back. Now look at the second part of the slide. When you identify the risk factors, then when you identify quality, what did you do? Look across the company in the business. I showed you example already. Air Asia's, Thai Airways, they got a plane on the financial statement. Nok Air don't have a plane on financial statement. Why? When you look across the three companies, when you analyze, you may ask why. Why Nok Air choose to do operating lease? It's got to be something behind, right? That's why you look across the company and try to guess what kind of industry you're looking at. And normal, what did they do? For retail, Family Mart, CTO, Big C. Inventory, first in, first out, or average? What do you think? In general, it should be first in, first out, right? It should be. But if you take a look at 7-Eleven, tend to be average. Why? If you choose the right inventory method, you're going to get the right gross profit, isn't it? Because inventory turn to cost of goods sold. You learned it after Tim Surik before, right? When you buy inventory, it belongs to the asset and then keep turning into cost of goods sold later on. If you pick the right valuation, you get the right cost of goods sold. That's why you need to look across the company what they normally do and why this company doing that. And looking at year over year change too. First year, first in, first out. Second year, first in, first out. But third year change into average. What caused them change? Can you notice that? If you're looking at the number, you're not going to see that. But if you're looking at the notes, or even in auditor report, you spot that. Because if the company change accounting policy, we will say in auditor report, the company change accounting policy from first in, first out to the average. Please see the note number, blah, blah, blah. The effect will be 10 million baht, for example. That's what they're going to say. And when you analyze, you do by subtract from the mean of the industry. Try to find what caused them differentiate. And make sure you got apple versus an apple in the same business. For example, you cannot compare Thai Airways to Bangkok Airways, different size. But you can compare Air Asia, Lion Air, and Nok Air. Just like that. Make sure apple to apple, even in the same industry. For example, if you pick real estate business, can you compare Pruksa against LH? No. Who's going to be competitors then for Pruksa? That's tough. That's tough because they have different segments. Let's see, AP property, Q house. Can we compare that? Real estate as well. Can?
Okay, but
Not exactly the same because they try to differentiate themselves by market segment. San Siri, who's going to be competitors? Ananda, no. San Siri, they do this or they do high rise or they do this. They mix. But sometimes they ask their subsidiary to do so. That's why you need to make sure understand the group business. Looking at segment report. How to see segment report? Segment report is in the notes. Note the financial statement, declare segment report. That's another important thing when you're looking at the note financial statement. Not only commitment, not only litigation, look at the segment. What segment make the profit? High rise or low rise? Condominiums or household? Just like that. Read across thing. Alright? Okay, now it's time for the break. When we come back, we're gonna set up the new one, the new chapters.